Hi guys, I'm back with another video. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be using Stamp Market products, the Hugs and Hello. From this set here, as you can see I've used this a lot. From this set here, I'm only going to be using the Paper Hug die cut and its shadow. And I'll show you why. I got a couple of these pieces together ahead of time, so not to save time. I die cut the Paper Hug, that's Bristol smooth cardstock, and I left it in it so I can color it. I'll show you. And I die cut two of these circle stitch out of a regular, A2 size panel, and then I also die cut the card base, with the same thing. I lined them up together and die cut them together to make sure that they were in the same spot. And that is, it's an A2 card, 4.5 by 5.5. 4.25 by 5.5, I'm sorry. Okay, and now what I did was, like I said, I pre-cut all these items to save time, all right? Otherwise, this video would be like a half hour. This next piece here, what I'm going to do is, it was 4.25 by 5.5. I'm just trimming down a little bit on each side, so I have a little bit of a border on my card base. Now, you don't want to take it all off on one side, because otherwise your focal point will be off center. So I take those little boxes on my guillotine trimmer. I go like half a box. So a full box, it would be a 1/4 inch. So I do half a box on one side and half a box on the other side, which is essentially an 1/8 of an inch and an 1/8 of an inch. So whatever. I just call them boxes because it's easier. Okay, moving on. Now I'm lining this up to make sure, and see I have a little bit of a white border around the edge on my card base. That is what I wanted. Okay, now what I'm going to do next is, I also wanted to show you, I have a piece of acetate that will fit and cover the window on my card panel. Not the card base, the card panel. And it's a little bit too big, so I'm just going to trim it down so it fits behind my panel. And I'm just going to put some score tape on that now. I'm going to speed this up because it's kind of boring. I'm just putting some 1/4 inch score tape. Now, those scissors you see there are Singer sewing scissors. They are fantastic. They're not the kind that, like non-stick, but they cut great, and they cut into small corners. I use them for fussy cutting. They're really great scissors, but they're for sewing. So, I don't know. I got them once, and I love them, and I kept on using them. I've got other ones, too, but nothing measures up to these little guys. Okay, so I'm putting on my acetate sheet here, all right, and I'm just, you got to rub it down so you see that it's like adhered well. You got to make sure you rub that in good. Now, I'm going to start with I don't really use distress markers too much. I don't know why, because I love them. They're very similar to Tombows and Arteza. They both are, they're great for watercoloring. So I decided to use them with this project. I picked out, my Roy G. Biv colors, which is, let me see here. I believe that one is Seedless Preserves. I'll have all the products linked below. I'm pretty sure it's Seedless Preserves. Yes. Is it? I'm sorry. Oh, Picked Raspberry. Picked Raspberry, not Seedless Preserves. Picked Raspberry. And the yellow is Mustard Seed. The green, red, orange, yellow. No, orange is Carved Pumpkin. Green is Mowed Lawn, Roy G. Biv. And the blue is, what did I use for blue? Oh, Mermaid Lagoon. This is what I use for my distress inks too, the same blend. And for my purple, I used Seedless Preserves. That's the Seedless Preserves. I got the Seedless Preserves and Picked Raspberry mixed up. So anyway, I put the colors down. Yeah, I'm showing you there, but it's sped up. Again, all products will be linked below. After I watercolored that, I took, popped them out, and I just used a little bit of a water brush, Tim Holtz Detailer, just to blend in the colors a little bit. I didn't want to do it too much, just wanted a soft little blend in between colors. I pop out the die cut here, and I'm going to show you why I have the shadow paper hugs cut out. One is to go behind this product here. Oh, these are my reverse tweezers. I couldn't live without them. Oh, I just love these items. This item, not items. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, I'm using my multimedia matte glue. I always start from the center, and I just grabbed a watercolor pan to put pressure on it, and I said, you know what, acrylic block would be better. So while that's drying, I'm adhering the pieces one by one, just gluing those little guys on. And I use my multimedia mat inside a quill bottle because it's great for precision gluing. I also have them in a syringe with a needle, but I rarely use that. I use this instead. Okay, now moving on. I'm going to line up where I want my paper hug to go across my acrylic, not my acrylic. Why can't I speak, people? The acetate panel. Okay, so while that's on there, I went and grabbed a fine little strip from My Favorite Things. This is the diagonal stripes paper. I just wanted a little piece because I love rainbow and I love to incorporate black and white somehow with it. So I just wanted a little piece across the side. Not on both sides, just the one side. Just line that up. It's going to overhang. I'm going to let it dry before I cut it off, because if you cut it off while it's wet, it'll slide and it'll be off center. So I'm going to let that dry. In the meantime, I also forgot to show in the beginning of the video, I'm also using Bear Hugs set, because I think the Bear Hug set and the Hello Hugs and Low set go so well together. I've seen quite a few examples of them being used together, and that's what inspired me to do this today. So with this guy, I'm taking the Bristol Smooth paper so it will match, and I'm stamping on the Bristol Smooth with my little guys here, my little bears. I'm going to use both because both of them will be used for the project. Excuse me. And I'll speed it up here in a second. I'm just stamping each bear and then the hearts. And I'm just going to use the Bristol, and I'm going to color them in with the same distress markers. Well, different colors. I used burgundy, a brushed corduroy, and for the bear, and hickory smoke for the panda. And that was pretty much it for those colors. And the hearts, I tried to keep the rainbow theme going on there. Alright, so anyway, I stamped these guys in Versafine black onyx ink, and then I put Wow Clear embossing powder over it. I heat set it off camera because my heat gun is at the other side of the room, plugged in. So after that was melted and cooled down, I started to watercolor it. And like I said, I just did the quick little rainbow stripes in the heart just to coordinate with the paper hug design. And with these hearts too, I just did, the same color. Roy G. Biv, straight down, nothing special, nothing crazy. And then with the panda bear, I'm just going to put stripes in his heart to match the paper hug. Alright, so that's just about done. Come on, there we go. Okay, so after that was done, I just blended a little bit, and then I just used the brush corduroy, and I just put some color down there, and just blended that up, just, keeping the darkest shadow on the bottom, just went up around his ears, and then, I added a little bit of pink too, and that was spun sugar inside his ears, yeah, a little spun sugar, and, there was one more brown, I'm sorry, you know what, I'll link it at the end of the video, what color I used. It was just a little bit of a darker brown for his nose area and his belly. And for the panda, I just used the gray. Okay, so after that, I die cut them. And I'm going to, again, do that off camera because it's off to the side. Now, there's an extra piece I cut. This was originally A2 by, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I made it a little more narrow, and I'll show you. I'm going to measure it in a moment for you. And what I did was I kept it a little longer than 5 1/2. It was like 5 3/4, and I scored it a 1/4 inch down so I would have a little bit of a flap. But I did cut it. It wasn't quite as wide as the card. It wasn't 4 1/2 inches. I keep saying that. It wasn't 4 1/4 inches wide. I trimmed off a little bit on each side so it wouldn't hang. You wouldn't see it from the outside of the card. So I'm lining up my piece now on my card, my panel on my card base, and making sure that's lined up. Yeah, because you got to make sure that the little scallops, everything lines up properly. All right, and then I'm just using my Tombow Mono liquid glue, and I'm gluing it down to my card base. Again, I like this glue because you could slide it. That's why I didn't use the multimedia matte. That's a little bit more pasty. The Tombow was a little bit more slippery. Okay, here, see, I'm showing you. It's not quite 4 1/4. It's a little smaller, and it's a little bit bigger than 5 1/2, and I scored it at 5, so I had a flap. Now, on that flap, I'm going to add... Oh my gosh, I can't believe my phone just did that. I'm so sorry. The alarm. I forgot to shut it off. I'm going to put a piece of score tape on my little flap there. And, yeah, just going to put that on there and get that ready, because that's going to go on the inside of the card. Now, the reason why I want it on the inside of the card is because I still wanted the card to be see-through. And I didn't want the message to be seen through the see-through opening. So what I did was I made a flap. And this way, you'll see, once the card is open and it stands up, you still have that see-through effect. See, you still have that. And when you lift up the flap, which I use Lawn Fawn, the interactive die set, and you lift up the flap, you have your message, and there will be a little bear in there. Now, here's where the second paper hug comes in. You're going to see it's on top there. I'm going to glue this down, but when it's open, you're going to see I'm putting my little panda bear on. I wanted the panda bear on the outside, and that little brown bear is going to go on the inside. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. I'm just putting the little hearts on randomly, no rhyme or reason, just sticking them on there, kind of keeping it in the Roy G. Biv order. And I'm going to show you in a minute here that second paper hug here. When you open the card, you can see the glue on the inside through the card. I mean, that may not bother you, that's fine, but I wanted to cut a second paper hug and put it on there because it gives it a more finished look, in my opinion. I mean, that would be fine, leaving it the way it is. It's entirely up to you. But what I did here was I just put the glue on the front end of the panel, not the back, the front, and then just flip it over and cover up that paper hug so you can't see the glue. And it just looks a little cleaner, a little more polished. See? Yeah, it covers that up. And that's that. Now, my little bear on the right there, I'm going to be putting him on the bottom. You lift the flap, and then I'm going to put him on the right side there so it's even, because my other bear is on the left. Sticking him down on the right, and then I'm going to put, eventually I'm going to put a sentiment in there. I'm going to put the one, I'm not just a card, I'm a hug with a fold in it. I'm going to put that sentiment on the inside and also pair it with the Bear Hugs stamp set. The sentiment, consider yourself hugged. I'm going to line those two up, and I'm going to stamp them on the inside of my card. Now, again, the purpose of that flap is to cover those up so you can't see them until you lift the flap. So that's what I was going for here. So I'm just going to stamp them. I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black, which is pretty much my go-to. I have every single black known to man, but I have had issues with smearing with other ones. I don't know why, but I have. So anyway, yeah, so you have lift the flap, and I eventually took a arrow and I stamped it on the lift the flap also, but I did that the next day, so it's not in this video. I did that from the Lawn Fawn interactive stamp. Now I'm just taking some white Nuvo Drops, and I'm just making sure that's all glued down. I was going to use that little scrap on the left there to squeeze out some white to make sure there's no air bubbles, but I just went straight to the project, which is something I normally don't do. Put a few white droplets, and that pretty much finishes off the card. I tap it off on my hand to round out the dots, make sure they're nice and round and smooth. And I did notice there was one or two spots that had white areas on my letters. I just went back and finished those up. And yeah, I just touched the little white areas, any areas I missed. And that's the card, folks. Like I said, all the products will be linked below. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me. Editing videos is so hard for me, so I truly appreciate you coming by. This is the second card I made. It was like my prototype, but I made the second one for the video, and I'm pretty happy the way they came out. Thank you again for coming by. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.